Part 17. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 161. In order to appease the ministers, His Majesty the Emperor finally decided to go there in person. Come, show me the general's mansion. So all the civil and military officials who participated in the court meeting followed the emperor out of the palace. Except for concubine Duan and the officials from the Ling family, the other ministers were partly escorting and partly watching the excitement. They all wanted to know who would win in this confrontation between Ling Anken and the eldest princess. This time was different from the previous inspection of the Hong family. First of all, although the minister of the Ministry of Revenue has a relatively high official position and is a serious and important minister in the court, he is still inferior to the Ling family, which has been so prominent in recent years. Moreover, the search of the Hong family was at night, and it coincided with the palace. The door was locked, and Hong Shangshu was unprepared and had no way to call for help. The eldest princess found out and even unfortunately found a large amount of gold and silver treasures obtained through corruption. In the end, he had to plead guilty and face the law. Secondly, concubine Duan and the eldest princess are biologically related as mother and daughter. If she didn't even give her mother-in-law the face of her own concubine and raided her uncle's house without any mercy, then the image of the eldest princess as ruthless and cold-blooded would only be lost. It will become more and more popular among the people, and all the civil and military officials in the court will have to consider whether the eldest princess, who has no relatives, will be soft on them in the future. Third, the ministers also wanted to take this opportunity to see if concubine Duan and the eldest princess would turn against each other because of the Ling family. Will the emperor favor the concubine or protect the eldest princess? The ministers from Fengxiang and the queen's faction also had somewhat conflicting attitudes. They both hoped that Chu Qinghuang would be ruthless and get rid of the Ling family so that they would have one less powerful opponent. They also hoped that the emperor would listen to the advice of the ministers and remove the eldest princess's daughter. Take back the power and stop making people panic. With such complicated thoughts, the ministers finally followed the emperor out of the palace and headed towards General Ling's mansion. The emperor has arrived. Before the emperor Luanjia arrived at the Ling family, the high-pitched singing and cheering of the eunuchs rang out. Ling Anken stood up hurriedly and led everyone in the Ling family to kneel respectfully to greet the emperor. I will pay my respects to the emperor. Long live my emperor! Everyone in the Ling family kowtowed and said, Long live my emperor! When Luanjia arrived at the gate of the Ling family, the emperor glanced at Ling Anken, who was bowing respectfully and bowing his head. He had the loyalty of a courtier, as well as just the right amount of anger and forbearance, as if he had just been greatly wronged. Chu Qinghuang got off the horse and bowed to the emperor. Father. Qinghuang, what's going on? The emperor looked at her and tried to show the majesty of the emperor. How come the house was confiscated and ended up in General Ling's house? This is such nonsense. Father, I don't know. My son has recently received some secret reports. General Ling took advantage of his power to embezzle military salaries, lie about the cost of weapons and equipment, falsify account books, and enrich his own pockets. Over the years, the embezzlement proceeds amounted to millions of taels chu. King Huang's tone was indifferent. Even the lieutenant general of the Silver Armored Army openly declared his allegiance to General Ling. He has no king and is treasonous. I have reason to suspect that General Ling is self-respecting and has the ambition to become an emperor on his own. I hope my father will see clearly. Absurd. This is complete nonsense, Ling Anken said angrily. How could Her Royal Highness the Princess slander me like this? General Ling is a first-class general personally appointed by the emperor. How can he be disloyal to the emperor? Ding Yushi said righteously. Her Royal Highness the Princess cannot wrongly accuse loyal ministers casually. General Ling is extremely loyal to the world. Please let your majesty take a closer look. Please, your majesty, see clearly. You don't have to worry. Chu Qinghuang's voice was extremely calm. Whether General Ling is loyal to the world, or whether I am using my power to bully others and wrongly accuse him, you will know soon. Please be patient. Ling Ankan kowtowed, I beg the Emperor to understand clearly, and I will be loyal to you. Isn't the evidence coming now? Chu Qinghuang said coldly, her eyes falling on the Ling family's gate. If there is no evidence, I will not waste time entangled with the Ling family here. Everyone followed her line of sight and saw 4 yellow-armored imperial guards walking out carrying a heavy mahogany box. The familiar box made Ling Ankan turn pale. No, this is impossible. How could they open the door to the Ling family's secret vault? Where did the key come from? Mrs. Ling also saw it, her legs softened, her body swayed, and she almost fainted on the spot. The ministers watched in stunned silence as the guards came out carrying boxes one after another. The boxes were placed in the wide courtyard one after another. The guards opened them, and there were neatly placed yellow gold ingots inside. Under the sun, so many gold ingots almost dazzled their eyes. 1 box, 2 boxes, 3 boxes. The Emperor's face was ashen, and his original relaxed and leisurely mood was long gone. As the box filled with gold ingots was carried out, his face became ashen as water, and a layer of frightening frost shrouded his brows. The minister who had been shouting that General Ling had been wrong just now was speechless and could not utter a word. Your Majesty, a guard quickly walked up to the Emperor, knelt down on one knee, and presented a thick stack of account books with both hands. These are all account books that were found from the secret vault of General Ling's mansion. Please take a look at them, Your Majesty. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 162. The ministers were silent. The Emperor took the account book without saying a word. Perhaps no one had touched it for a long time, and a layer of dust had accumulated on the account book. Chen Hai, who was standing beside him, hurriedly took it and dusted it carefully, wiping it again and again with his sleeves. He handed the account book to the Emperor only after he was sure it was clean. These account books probably don't show any tricks when you look at them alone, Chu Qinghuang said indifferently, but it just so happens that I recently got a real account book. Chu Qinghuang turned around and said, Lu Jun. Lu Jun, who came only an incense stick of time earlier than the Emperor, walked forward, holding a stack of account books wrapped in a bundle in his hand, and walked in front of the Emperor. He opened the bundle and presented all the thick stack of account books to His Majesty the Emperor. Father, you can go back and check slowly. Chu Qinghuang turned her eyes slightly, looking at Censor Ding and several ministers of the Ling family. If you have any questions about the account books, you can also look at them with Father. These account books I have obtained are guaranteed to be true and valid. Every account recorded in them is evidence of Ling Ankan's huge fraud and embezzlement. The Emperor was silent, his expression as cold as ice. Censor Ding was shocked, his eyes fell on the Ling family headed by Ling Ankan, and he couldn't believe what he heard. Ling Ankan is a first-rank general after all. The Ling family has been prominent for so many years, but it was so easy for the princess to get evidence of his abuse of power to enrich himself? Are the guards raised by the Ling family all good for nothings? How could such a large mansion allow people to come and go freely? Otherwise, how could the princess get the evidence so easily, and even get the key to the Ling family's secret vault in advance? The Ling family is in charge of military power and has been favored for more than 20 years. They are deeply trusted by the Emperor. This fact is known to the world. Chu Qinghuang's voice became calmer and calmer, and there was no personal emotion when stating the facts. So the officials from all over the country under the Ling family used their positions to respect General Ling. The amount of silver taels is not small, and the gifts sent every year on the birthday of concubine Duan are also not small. The ministers looked at each other, all with surprised and suspicious expressions. The eldest princess even revealed concubine Duan. Does this mean that she has no regard for family affection and is determined to kill relatives for the sake of justice? accepting bribes from officials from all over the country, forging accounts and making false reports, and embezzling huge price differences in the name of purchasing military equipment, as well as the jewelry and calligraphy sent by subordinates, all of which were exchanged by General Ling for gold ingots. Chu Qinghuang's voice was cold. Over the past 10 years, the amount of embezzlement by the Ling family is enough to offset the tax revenue of the national treasury for half a year. If anyone dares to say that I have wronged him, he should stand up and explain to my father, are these boxes of gold ingots grown under the ground of the Ling family, or grown on trees? The officials were silent and uneasy. The emperor's face was already extremely ugly, and the evidence was laid out in front of him. Who would dare to speak at this time without knowing whether to live or die? I'm afraid that the emperor will be furious and directly order the person who defended him to be guilty of the same crime as the Ling family. I took over the Silver Armor Army the day before yesterday. The 4 generals in the army shouted and swore to be loyal to General Ling until death. Chu Qinghuang's eyes were cold and hard, without a trace of emotion. General Ling led the troops well, so the generals under his command are loyal to you? The Silver Armor Army is stationed at the feet of the emperor, but they only recognize General Ling instead of the emperor, and openly ignore the imperial edict. I said that you have a rebellious heart, but have I wronged you? Ling Anken knelt on the ground, his face was pale and bloodless, and he couldn't say a word at this moment. All the verbal excuses were too pale and wasted. He wanted to maintain his last dignity. The surroundings were so quiet that it made people uneasy, and the air seemed to be filled with the breath of blood and killing. The emperor closed his eyes. Chu Xuanyi. I am here. Arrange some people to count the gold and silver that the Ling family has embezzled, report to me after counting, and then add it to the national treasury. I obey your order. The Ling family deceived the emperor, embezzled huge amounts of public funds, accepted bribes, and disregarded national laws and decrees. The evidence is conclusive. All family property will be confiscated and the mansion will be sealed. The emperor's tone was cold. All the people in the Ling family will be arrested and thrown into the sky prison. Yes. The civil and military officials were startled, and their hearts were rolling like a raging wave. They tried their best to hide their fear and anxiety, but the shock on their faces still revealed some real emotions. How many officials present were truly innocent and clean? No one could withstand the investigation, so it was normal to be uneasy. Even Ling Anken, a general who had been in charge of military power for so many years, could not stop Chu Qinghuang. He fell into her hands. How could others fight against her? Now they can only pray that she will not take small fish and shrimp seriously, otherwise. I am afraid that the entire court will be purged. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 163. This family confiscation storm ended with the eldest princess's victory. The ministers who followed the emperor, their clothes wet with sweat, looked at Chu Qinghuang with fear, uneasiness, nervousness, and shock. The existing vocabulary could not perfectly summarize their mood at this time. Since the founding of the country, no, it should be said that in all dynasties, there has never been an eldest princess who behaves like this, and no emperor has ever allowed his daughter to behave like this. This is simply going to turn the imperial city into a bloody mess. It's crazy. If she is allowed to continue like this, all the civil and military personnel of the dynasty will have to stay in prison. By then, whether it is the Sky Prison or the prison of the Ministry of Punishment, I am afraid that it will be overcrowded. My lords, why are you looking at me like this? Chu Qinghuang raised his eyebrows slightly and said in a cold and sarcastic voice, are you crazy and insulting me in your heart? Is I an evil god? I don't recognize my relatives? Or are you still thinking of ways to impeach me and let me father, Please abolish the scourge of this palace as soon as possible. The ministers were shocked and immediately knelt down to her. I don't dare. In front of the emperor, you should behave as you should. Who dares to jump out and refute at this time? Maybe she will immediately take her 3,000 guards to ransack their home. The national treasury has been empty recently, and Ziki needs your help at this time. Chu King Huang's voice was calm, not like the words of a 15-year-old girl. I hope all of you will be able to repay your father's kindness faithfully. Don't always hold the king back. You should give money when it's time, and you should make efforts when you should. You have really become a minister with a clear conscience. Please ask me to raid your home. I won't go either. Small shrimps and small fish are not worth her time and energy, but everyone she targets is definitely a corrupt official who is so greedy that even if they are thrown into the moat, they will not be able to clean themselves. The ministers bowed and saluted. Her Royal Highness, the eldest princess, is loyal to the country, mighty and domineering, and may live 1,000 years, 1,000 years, 1,000 years. The emperor stood aside and looked at the scene in front of him silently, with complex feelings in his heart that were difficult to describe. He felt that he, the emperor, was being protected by his daughter. His daughter, who was only 15 years old, was devoted to him. Not only did she confiscate the homes of corrupt officials, solving the problem of an empty treasury, but she also took away the power of powerful officials and soldiers, so that he would no longer have to be constrained in the future. Will not be afraid. In front of so many people, Qing Huang didn't mind making enemies of all the ministers, just to protect his father. When the emperor thought about those sons who were too timid to show up but wanted to fight for the throne, he felt really unspeakable in his heart. During this period, I am in charge of the Silver Armored Army, so I may need the Ministry of Household Affairs to allocate funds, Chu Qing Huang said calmly, but the money in the treasury is limited, and I have only confiscated the Hong family and Ling family so far. This money, once it's used up, it's gone. If money is needed elsewhere, it will inevitably be stretched again, so I ask you all to donate generously. If you behave well, my father and I will see it. If you behave badly, I will also keep it in mind. You can decide what to do. The emperor almost applauded her. What a spirit! As expected, there is nothing to be afraid of because you have nothing to ask for. Those princes are eyeing the position of prince every day, for fear of offending the important ministers in the court. Who dares to be as courageous as Qing Huang? He was so lucky to have such a daughter. Thinking of this, the emperor couldn't help but feel sorry for concubine Duan. In fact, his love for concubine Duan was not entirely due to the Ling family's military power. He did like her gentleness and considerateness over the years, even if he knew the women in the harem best at disguise. But it's her ability to disguise it well so that no one can see through it, isn't it? With the emperor's favor and such a capable daughter, as long as concubine Duan keeps to herself, teaches her son to be a talented person, concentrates on his studies, and occasionally helps the emperor relieve his worries, why worry about not being able to win the position of heir apparent? There was a time when he considered making Tianzheng the crown prince, but unfortunately, he didn't have this fate. The emperor raised his eyes slightly and looked at the powerful daughter in front of him. Although she was only 15 years old, she had courage and magnanimity that few adult men could have. Especially her strong ability was beyond the reach of others. How great would it be if she were a prince? The emperor felt a little regretful. All my dear friends, I have heard that the national treasury is short of money recently. The court needs money to raise troops, and I also need money to govern the country. Ministers who have plenty of money can each contribute some. More or less depends on your wishes. Just treat it as my and yours. If you borrow it, when the national treasury is abundant and 11 qi is strong, I will definitely return the money in full. The ministers knelt down and said, My holy emperor. Long live, long live, long live. Long live. The emperor's mood became increasingly complicated as he watched the officials kneel on the ground and shout "Long live the mountain." Scenes like this seemed to happen often recently, especially the last time the Hongshangshu mansion was confiscated and today's interrogation of the Ling family. The ministers' voices shouting "Long live the mountain" were particularly loud and overwhelming, as if they were afraid that he would not know their loyalty. And all of this is King Huang's contribution. $window. Taboola equals window. Taboola. Taboola.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, Taboola below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 164. Everything here is left to Qing Huang and Chu Xuanyi. Dear ladies, you can return to the palace with me. His Majesty the Emperor sat on the sedan chair and took one last look at Ling Ancan, who was kneeling on the ground. Chu Xuanyi, you stay here and listen to the eldest princess's instructions, and then return to the palace to report to me after everything is settled. Chu Xuanyi lowered his head to accept the order. All the evidence is conclusive and cannot be denied, and the fate of the Ling family is decided. The emperor returned to the palace satisfied with the victory that only he knew. Millions of taels of gold and silver, no matter how much these gold and silver are after they are liquidated, whether it is 3 million taels or 5 million taels, it is still millions, which is a large amount for the national treasury. The emperor no longer has to worry about money for the time being, and he no longer has to worry about the Ling family's military convicts. After returning home, he can finally have a good sleep. Qing Huang is indeed his lucky star. Chu King Huang's 3,000 guards stayed to surround the Ling family's mansion. Chu Xuanyi arranged for a few trustworthy guards to count the gold and silver, and then personally took the whole Ling family to the prison. Ling Ancan looked depressed and gloomy along the way. The crying sounds of Mrs. Ling and other female members of the Ling family made him upset. Ling Ancan coldly scolded "Shut up" before he finally calmed down. After being put into the cell, Ling Ancan raised his head and looked at Chu Xuanyi, who was about to leave. "Prince Yi." Chu Xuanyi turned his head and looked at him calmly. "General Ling, do you have something to say? The Ling family has fallen to this point." "I, the general, have nothing to say." Ling Ancan looked coldly. "I just have a secret I want to tell you." Chu Xuanyi's expression was stern. "What secret?" "Prince Yi, you can come closer," Ling Ancan said calmly. "This matter is related to the stability of the country and should not be publicized." Chu Xuanyi frowned. "Is it related to the stability of the country?" After a moment of silence, he slowly walked closer and stood outside the cell, looking directly at Ling Ancan. "General Ling, you can speak now." Ling Ancan looked coldly. "The Queen Mother has always preferred concubine Feng. Do you know the reason for this?" "Queen Mother?" Chu Xuanyi's eyes flashed with deep thought, and then he said calmly, "Who the Queen Mother prefers is her own business. Everyone has their own favorite people. As a minister, this seems not to be my responsibility." "You are wrong," Ling Ancan sneered. "As a high-ranking Empress Dowager, the woman with the last laugh in the harem, she should have given up everything, peacefully enjoyed her glory, and spent her old age in peace, with the emperor and the harem's concubines to honor her. She will be the most beautiful and happy woman in the world, but she insists on having a hand in the fight for the heirloom, and secretly favors concubine Feng and her son. Don't you think this is abnormal?" Chu Xuanyi's heart sank slightly. His intuition told him that he should not continue listening, but Ling Ancan obviously did not consider his feelings at this time and was determined to tell him the truth. He continued without waiting for his reaction. "The current emperor is not the biological son of the Queen Mother at all, not even the late emperor. The bloodline of Feng Gaifei is." Chu Xuanyi's expression changed. "General Ling, you want me to tell lies and spread rumors about the emperor's bloodline?" Ling Ancan smiled coldly. "If you don't believe it, You can ask the Queen Mother in person. Chu Xuanyi's face was as dark as water, and he rebuked coldly, "That's a bunch of nonsense." Ling Anken's tone was cold. When the civet cat replaced the prince, the Queen Mother worked very hard to stabilize her position as queen, but paper cannot contain fire, and there is no airtight wall in this world. Shut up. Prince Yi is afraid. Ling Anken looked at him for a moment, as if there were flames dancing in his eyes. Prince Rong is the true royal bloodline, and Prince Yi is not tempted at all. Chu Xuanyi looked at him expressionlessly. General Ling, before he died, did he want to create a civil strife in the royal family? The emperor's name is not justified. As long as it is revealed that he does not have the blood of the emperor, he is not qualified to be the emperor, Ling Anken said coldly. Although the third prince was born to concubine Feng, even if concubine Feng regained her royal status, she would only be she is a princess, and her son has no chance of becoming emperor. Moreover, the Queen Mother is charged with confusing the royal bloodline. Neither she nor concubine Feng will end well. After the chaos in the royal family, Prince Rong's palace has the best chance, but Prince Yi has no chance at all. Not excited? Chu Xuanyi looked at him silently, his lips pursed tightly, and the deep color in his eyes surged. Who else knows about this? Ling Anken sneered. If what you said is true, then the Queen Mother must know, Chu Xuanyi said. Feng Gaifei should not know, otherwise she would not have endured until now, and other people should not know, otherwise the secret cannot be kept. So many years. As long as Prince Yi has this idea, I can be a witness. Ling Anken's voice was sinister. The throne of Zhongshan belongs to the Chu family, not a fake emperor who was replaced. As the legitimate son of Prince Rong, Prince Yi has the responsibility to restore the purity of the royal bloodline. Chu Xuanyi narrowed his eyes, was silent for a long time, and nodded slowly. Thank you, General Ling, for telling me this. I will consider this matter carefully and come to you in a few days. After saying that, he looked at Ling Anken calmly and turned to leave. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 165. The Ling family's property is rich and huge, and the inventory cannot be completed in a short time. When Chu Xuanyi came back from Tianlao, he saw that his imperial guards and the people arranged by Chu Qinghuang were counting boxes of gold and silver and recording them in detail. The outside of the Ling family's mansion was surrounded by yellow-armored imperial guards. All the aftermath work, it's all done in the house. After the inventory was completed, the door of Ling's house was locked and sealed, and then these imperial guards sent boxes of belongings to the treasury and handed them over to the officials of the Ministry of Revenue. The task of searching the house was successfully completed. Chu Xuanyi walked into the mansion and took a look around. In addition to the imperial guards responsible for counting, there were 4 men in black robes patrolling the mansion. Their aura was restrained, but they could not conceal their well-trained murderous aura. Dark Pavilion Shadow Guard. Chu Xuanyi was silent, becoming more and more aware of Chu Qinghuang's careful and meticulous thoughts. He seemed to be strong and impulsive in doing things, but in fact, every step was a sure win, otherwise he would never act rashly. Of course, these forbidden troops listened to her orders and could take precautions. She is also doing it all the time, never leaving any opportunity for anyone to take advantage of. If she knew the secret of the royal family. Chu Xuanyi didn't know what he thought of, turned around and walked out of the Ling family gate, got on his horse, and galloped towards the eldest princess's mansion. When Chu Qinghuang returned to the mansion, she had just changed her clothes and sat down. Before she finished drinking the cup of tea in her hand, she saw Lu Jun coming over to report, "Your Highness, Prince Yi is here. Let him come over." "Yes." Fukang. Chu Qinghuang turned around and looked at Fukang, who was standing aside. The Ling family's corruption gains have not yet been counted, and Chu Xuanyi is so anxious to come to see me. What do you think will happen? Fukang was silent for a moment, Ling Ankan must have said something to him. There is no shortage of secrets in the royal family. Ling An has been a favorite for more than 20 years, so it is normal for him to have some secrets in his hands. Moreover, when a person jumps over the wall in a hurry, and a person suddenly falls into the abyss, he will always do irrational things or say irrational things. Chu Qinghuang took a sip of tea and said calmly, Chu Xuanyi is actually a smart man. As the eldest son of Prince Rong's family, Chu Xuanyi plays his role and does what he should do. His words and deeds are in line with the style of a royal prince, and there is nothing out of the ordinary. Fukang pursed his lips and remained silent. Chu Xuanyi quickly arrived at Dongshang Pavilion and saluted on one knee, see the eldest princess. No courtesy, Chu Qinghuang said, is something wrong? Chu Xuanyi did not stand up, but whispered, I do have something to tell the eldest princess. Please step aside, your highness. Retreat from left and right. Chu Qinghuang turned to look at Fukang. She likes to be quiet, and usually stays alone when there is nothing else to do, with only Fukang by her side. However, Fukang understands the rules and will not take the initiative to disturb her. So at this time, when Chu Xuanyi said to withdraw from the left and right, did he mean that even Fukang could not be present? Fukang Chu Qinghuang didn't say much, go and wait outside. Fukang lowered his head in agreement, turned around and walked out. What's the matter? Ling Ankan told me something. Chu Xuanyi's eyebrows narrowed slightly, and his tone sounded calm and calm. It didn't sound like he was telling a shocking secret, it's about the emperor. Chu Qinghuang raised her eyebrows slightly, about the emperor. Yes. Well, let me take a guess. Chu Qinghuang closed his eyes and sipped the tea, and said in a calm voice, did he say that my father is not of the queen mother's blood, but that concubine Feng is? Chu Xuanyi was shocked and looked up at her in disbelief. Chu Xuanyi, I have known that you are a smart person for a long time, Chu Qinghuang said with a leisurely expression, if this happened to others today, they probably would not come and tell me. Chu Xuanyi suppressed the shock in his heart and said calmly, this kind of secret, no matter what the truth is, the fewer people who know it, the more dangerous it is for those who know the truth. I don't want to guess that Ling Ankan just wants to save his life. I still want to drag Prince Rong's mansion into trouble. I just want Prince Rong's mansion to stay away from danger and protect myself wisely. But from what the eldest princess meant, it seemed like she already knew about this. You are very honest, Chu Qinghuang said calmly, the royal family has many secrets, far more than this one. If we really dig out them one by one, I'm afraid I will die without a burial place before I know what the secrets are. Eyes falling on the face of the man in front of him, Chu Qinghuang whispered, smart people know how to protect themselves wisely. I like your honesty and calmness. Chu Xuanyi was silent. Every time he talked to Chu Qinghuang, he would get the feeling that the woman in front of him was very sophisticated. She didn't look like a 15-year-old girl at all, and she didn't even look like the same person as the rumored tyrannical 7th princess. But unfortunately, they are indeed the same person. Since you want to preserve Prince Rong's palace, you can only pretend that you don't know about this. Chu Qinghuang ignored his inner thoughts and said calmly, I will also pretend that you don't know about this. Chu Xuanyi responded, yes. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbspeed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 166. After Chu Xuanyi left, Chu Qinghuang sat alone in front of the window, secretly thinking that the secret in Ling Ankan's hands was the emperor's bloodline. This kind of thing seemed normal, and Chu Qinghuang didn't feel anything special after hearing it. Perhaps in the eyes of others, this is a shocking secret that can shock both the government and the public and cause shock to the court. If the truth is announced to the world, it will not be a problem to shed blood. But in Chu Qinghuang's view, it was just an attempt by the Queen Mother to protect her. It's just a stratagem used by someone from behind. Even after so many years, she could roughly imagine how the original plan was implemented. It can only be said that the late emperor who was kept in the dark was not very smart at the time. But then again, since it was a young emperor who ascended the throne, it proves that the late emperor was not in good health, otherwise he would not have died early, so that the current emperor was forced to ascend the throne at a young age, and later faced being regent by the Lin family. The king controlled the government for many years, and his power was emptied out. It was not until the age of pro-government that the emperor and the Lin family seized power. This also led to civil strife in the Western Qi dynasty, and his vitality was severely damaged. It has not been fully recovered for so many years. Therefore, Ziki simply cannot withstand another turmoil. Things have been going on for so long, and Chu Qinghuang has no interest in finding out the truth. The most appropriate thing to do is to bury everything completely. Fukang Chu Qinghuang put down the teacup and said in a calm voice, Ling Ankan doesn't have to live anymore. Let him commit suicide in fear of crime in the sky prison. Fukang lowered his head and said, yes, I will go and finish this matter tonight. Since concubine Feng is the biological daughter of the Queen Mother. Chu Qinghuang held her chin and muttered, then the emperor is probably a descendant of the Feng family. It would also be easier to switch the package nearby, but in this case, wouldn't the emperor and Feng Xiang be brothers? Chu Qinghuang frowned. This was really not a pleasant conclusion. If the emperor knew that the Feng family was a family connected by blood to him. Fukang said respectfully, I will go check it out immediately. No need, Chu Qinghuang refused, I don't want to know the truth so far back, and I don't want others to know either. Yes. The truth is not important, but this matter is not completely useless to me. Chu Qinghuang's lips raised slightly, when you have time, go to Renshao Palace to pick up a few scriptures and letters written by the Queen Mother, as long as just have the Queen Mother's handwriting. Yes. Chu Qinghuang raised her eyes to look at him and raised her hand to wave. Fukang came forward and knelt down. You have been very efficient in your work these past 2 days, and I am very satisfied with you. Chu Qinghuang rubbed his head, since you are my personal bodyguard, I will not hide anything from you, so you no need to think too much. She was referring to the fact that Chu Xuanyi refused to let Ping retreat just now. Fukang lowered his head, his brows warm and soft, yes. The Ling family is gone, and the Feng family must also disappear with it. Chu Qinghuang said indifferently, only if everyone who knows about it keeps their mouths shut, Ziki will not fall into turmoil. After saying this, she stood up and said, I'm going to pay my respects to concubine Duan, and take a look at Chu Tianzhen's injuries. Of course, the most important thing is to meet the Queen Mother. She needs to ask some questions in person to avoid omissions. After walking out of the Dongshang pavilion, she met several peacocks coming in force. Chu Qinghuang paused slightly and said calmly, what are you doing? Come to say hello to His Highness. Hong Yu said obediently, His Highness left early today, and we didn't even have time to say good morning to His Highness. Chu Qinghuang looked at them calmly, just to say hello. The 5 people nodded in unison. I heard that His Highness ransacked the Ling family today. Hong Yu blinked and looked at Chu Qinghuang with admiration, His Highness is mighty and domineering. Chu Qinghuang glanced at him, you didn't go to see the excitement today. I wanted to go. Hong Yu sighed with regret, unfortunately, Mr. Chu said that the civil and military officials of the Manchu dynasty were almost scared out of their wits. If we go there again, we are afraid that they will be so angry that they will go straight to the sky, so we didn't go. Chu Qinghuang turned to look at Chu Ling Chuan. Master Chu is a kind-hearted person, Wen Zhan said with a smile, borrowing Hong Yu's catchphrase and praising the golden thigh. It's all for the sake of the ministers. Chu Ling Chuan smiled and said nothing. Chu Qinghuang hummed, everyone, go back. I want to go into the palace to see concubine Duan. After a pause, come over to the East Shang Pavilion in the evening and have dinner with me. The 5 people responded in unison and stood respectfully on both sides to let Her Royal Highness the Princess go first. Chu Qinghuang raised her hand and waved, as noble as a queen, kneel down, everyone. The 5 people bowed and saluted, best farewell to your Royal Highness, the eldest princess. Chu Qinghuang twitched the corner of his mouth, glanced at a few living treasures expressionlessly, and calmly raised his feet and left. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 167. Because the news in the past 2 days was not smooth, and the news between the harem and the former court was somewhat blocked, concubine Duan did not know for the time being that Chu Qinghuang had confiscated the Ling family as soon as he left Ganquan Palace. She sat on the brocade couch, her eyebrows raised. Frowning, how is Tianzhen's injury? Did the imperial doctor treat his injuries carefully? Will there be any root causes of the disease? Don't worry too much, Your Majesty. Your Highness is the Emperor's biological son after all. No matter how angry the Emperor is, he won't be beaten to death and Yuan served carefully at the side. It's just that there have been many things going on in the court recently. Jinghu Mountain there has been another rebellion, and it is normal for the Emperor to be in a bad mood. Don't be too anxious, my Empress. Concubine Duan raised her hand and rubbed her eyebrows, looking haggard. Recently, the court has been in chaos due to Qinghuang, and the civil and military officials in the court are like frightened birds. Do you think she has a disease in her brain? When she goes crazy, she doesn't distinguish between ourselves and the enemy, and she doesn't care about herself at all. I treat her as her mother, so I gave birth to this evil thing in vain. The same goes for Her Royal Highness, the eldest princess. And Yuan frowned. Logically speaking, even if she wants to toss, she should toss other ministers of the aristocratic families to clear the obstacles for the 5th Highness. How can she be at odds with the Ling family? While Feng Zheyi and her son are taking advantage of after losing power and eradicating the Feng family and Qiaju's party, and causing the eldest prince and the 2nd prince to be demoted to county princes, wouldn't it be logical for our 5th prince to be established as the crown prince? She is an idiot, concubine Duan said angrily. I can't think about her now. When I think about her, I will tremble with rage. Concubine Duan. Concubine, it's not good. Aunt Zhao came in a hurry, her voice was anxious and frightened, her face turned pale, as if the sky was about to fall. Her Royal Highness, the eldest princess, led the imperial army to search the Ling family, alarming the emperor. With the civil and military officials of the Manchu dynasty, General Ling and his family have been sent to prison, waiting to be punished. Concubine Duan's face suddenly turned pale and she stared at Nanny Zhao stiffly. What did you say? Chang, Her Royal Highness the eldest princess led people to search the Ling family, and Zhao looked frightened and uneasy, and her voice was trembling. Dozens of boxes of gold were taken from the secret vault of the Ling family. The emperor and the civil and military officials of the entire dynasty saw the evidence. It's true, it can't be denied. Concubine Duan's vision went dark, and she almost fell over. At this moment, the eunuch's high-pitched announcement sounded outside, the eldest princess has arrived. The entire Ganquan palace fell silent for an instant. All the nuns and maids knelt on the ground, and no one dared to raise their heads. Concubine Duan raised her eyes cold and sharp. Chu Qinghuang stepped into the palace door and raised her head to meet the cold and hateful eyes of Concubine Duan. She was silent for a moment. Originally, I was worried that the news in the harem would be blocked, so I came here to inform you, but judging from Concubine Duan's expression at this time, She probably already knows what's going on outside. Chu Qinghuang, what on earth do you want to do? Concubine Duan stood up, pointed at her nose tremblingly, and asked sternly, what on earth do you want to do? Chu Qinghuang looked at her calmly. Concubine Duan closed her eyes, her face turned pale, and her cheeks kept twitching. After a long time, she opened her eyes. Qinghuang, I am your mother. I gave birth to you in 10 months of pregnancy. Can you stop being like this, to me? As she spoke, her eyes turned red and tears streamed down her cheeks. You are my biological daughter. I don't ask you to repay me with anything. I just ask you to repay my kindness with my vengeance, okay? Chu Qinghuang sighed, tears are a woman's most lethal weapon. If you had the same attitude before, you would know how to use tears as a weapon instead of being arrogant in trying to control the fate of this palace, even at the expense of others. If you use Ling Jing to disgust me, maybe the Ling family will not end up like this. Qinghuang concubine Duan looked at her with tears in her eyes, all her hatred was hidden, and her eyes were pleading, you are the only one who can save the Ling family now. I personally sent them to the prison, but you asked me to rescue them again. Chu Qinghuang frowned, looking at her with a strange look, am I sick? Concubine Duan looked pale. Actually, I didn't plan to deal with the Ling family, or at least I wouldn't deal with the Ling family so quickly. Chu Qinghuang narrowed her eyes and flicked her sleeve slowly, if it weren't for Ling Jing, I wouldn't have been so quick. When dealing with the Ling family, I will not focus on the Ling family, but the Ling family wants to provoke me. Concubine Duan said urgently, I will tell the Ling family to stay away from you from now on. It's too late, money can't buy medicine for regret. Chu Qinghuang said indifferently, the murderous intention of this palace started with Ling Jing, a man who tried to tame the royal princess and then trampled under his feet. Does he still need to exist? The Ling family if the wind is not right, one extra day of life is a gift to them. If there were no Ling family, she would at most find a way to seize the Ling family's military power, giving herself more leverage, but not killing them. But concubine Duan and her son were too stupid and arrogant. They had ignored her before, but when they saw that she had broken off her relationship with Feng Jinzi and was canonized as the eldest princess, they couldn't wait to control her and make her be used by them. This is nothing. The person who really caused the Ling family to fall into hell was Ling Jing. Hasn't Ling Jing been handed over to you? Why do you have to kill them all? Concubine Duan looked at her hysterically with sharp eyes. Chu Qinghuang, you are a cold-blooded animal. You have a snake-hearted heart. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 168. Cold-blooded animal? Serpentine. Chu Qinghuang looked indifferent, and there was a hint of sarcasm in her eyes as she looked at her. If thinking this way can make you feel at ease, I don't mind, but for the sake of mother and daughter, I'll kindly tell you the truth. Although the Ling family's raid will seriously hurt you, your father should not be angry with you, and your position as concubine can still be kept. Duan Fei said angrily, the Ling family is gone, what's the use of this concubine? At least it can guarantee you and Chu Tianzheng prosperity and wealth. Chu Qinghuang frowned, are you planning to go to jail with the Ling family? Duan Fei panted quickly, and at this moment she really hated her to the bone. Chu Qinghuang certainly didn't think that Duan Fei was really sad about the raid of the Ling family and that the Ling family was about to be killed, but that the destruction of the Ling family would directly lead to her and Chu Tianzheng losing all their bargaining chips. After seeing that Duan Fei had lost power, the officials who belonged to the Ling family in the court would no longer support the fifth prince. This is what makes her most desperate. Even if she can still keep her position as a concubine Duan's status in the harem will plummet after the destruction of the Ling family. She will never be as glorious as before. Chu Qinghuang knew that concubine Duan hated her, but she didn't care. She came here today not to beat the dog when it was down, nor to show off, and of course not to comfort and sympathize with her. She just wanted to let her know that the Ling family had today's ending because of her own hand. After saying that, there was no reason to stay any longer. Chu Qinghuang turned and walked out. As soon as she stepped out of the palace door, she heard the sound of things being smashed behind her. Bitch! 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 Chu Qinghuang's expression was slightly mocking. It seemed that she hadn't heard anyone scold her like this for a while. Feng Jinzi and Madame Feng liked to scold her like this before, and Ling Jing also scolded her later, but concubine Duan didn't scold her. Maybe she was concerned about the mother-daughter relationship. If she scolded her daughter, wouldn't it be scolding herself? But today she lost control, lost all her reason, and was no longer dignified and gentle as before. Chu Qinghuang walked out of Ganquan Palace, thinking as she walked. Whether it was the former dynasty or the harem, whether it was the civil and military officials of the court or the empress and concubines, all the elegance and grace actually needed a gorgeous identity. Once the interests were damaged and some hopes were shattered, the perfect disguise would be torn to pieces in an instant. It was a pity that these people could not see the situation clearly. In the end, only one person could sit on the high throne. Others would fight for it and eventually become losers. The winners were the kings and the losers were the law since ancient times. How many people could have a good ending? Unfortunately, there were too many people who could not see through it. Stepping out of the gate of Ganquan Palace, the tense voice of the young man suddenly sounded in her ears. The master is not a snake and scorpion heart, concubine Duan is talking nonsense. Chu Qinghuang tilted her head to look. Fu Kang pursed his lips tightly, looking like he was suppressing some emotions. She paused slightly and said lightly, I don't care what she said, and you don't have to care. She really didn't care, because she never regarded concubine Duan as her own relative, so she didn't care how she treated herself. However, Fu Kang's protective attitude still made her feel happy. Yes. Although I don't want to talk nonsense, I still have to remind you. Chu Qinghuang stretched out her hand and pinched his face. In any occasion outside the princess's mansion, please keep your duty as a shadow guard and don't discuss others without authorization. This is not your scope of responsibility. Fu Kang was silent for a moment, and nodded slowly, yes. Chu Qinghuang said nothing more, and took Fu Kang to Renqiao Palace. The harem has been very uneasy recently, and the Queen Mother's life is obviously not comfortable. Originally, the Queen Mother was an extremely glorious position, noble above millions of people, with fine clothes and food, glory and wealth. Even the emperor had to be respectful to her, and the concubines in the harem were naturally obedient. She could almost get everything she wanted at will, as long as she didn't have ambitions that she shouldn't have, such as interfering in government affairs and intervening in the matter of the crown prince. But the Queen Mother just broke this taboo. Since concubine Feng was demoted to Zaiyi, the atmosphere in the harem has obviously changed. The queen still brings all the concubines to greet her every day, but it is just greeting, maintaining superficial respect. The confident attitude in her words and the fisherman's face of watching the tigers fight from the mountain make the Queen Mother hate her secretly, but she can't do anything about it. Too lazy to see those who annoy her, the Queen Mother simply exempted them from the morning and evening visits. In the past few days, Renqiao Palace has indeed become much quieter, so quiet that the Queen Mother thought she hadn't seen Chu Qinghuang for several months. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 169. So when the palace maid reported that the eldest princess had arrived, the Queen Mother was stunned for a moment, and then her eyebrows jumped fiercely. It was probably because this disaster had left such a shadow on her, and she felt ominous even when she heard Chu Qinghuang's name. Let her come in. The queen mother was lying on the phoenix couch without energy. The two palace maids next to her were kneeling on the ground and tapping her legs, serving her carefully. Nothing big happened in the palace recently, right? Feng Ping stood aside and whispered, I just learned that something big did happen. He was just thinking about how to tell the queen mother, but unexpectedly Her Royal Highness the eldest princess came. Event. The queen mother's heart skipped a beat and she asked calmly, what's the matter? Feng Ping came closer and lowered his voice, the Ling family was ransacked by the eldest princess and her men. The queen mother was stunned for a moment, and then she sat up in shock. What did you say? She must have heard wrongly. How could such a thing be possible? Feng Ping was about to repeat it again, but he saw all the palace people kneeling down. He turned around and saw Chu Qinghuang stepping into the palace door, and then knelt down. See you, Your Royal Highness, the eldest princess. The queen mother looked at the palace door in surprise. Sunlight shone in from outside the door, and Chu Qinghuang, who was dressed in a dark red robe, walked into the palace door against the light. His whole body was shrouded in a halo, making it difficult to see his face, and he could only feel a cool and cold breath. It lingered around her, making her heart palpitate for no reason. The palace was very quiet, so quiet that there was an air of silence. The queen mother just looked at her like she was looking at some man-eating monster. Chu Qinghuang bowed in a neither humble nor overbearing manner. The queen mother. The queen mother suddenly came back to her senses, and with some embarrassment, she retracted her slightly ungrateful gaze, maintaining the dignity that a queen mother should have. Why do you have time to come to Ai's house? I heard a royal secret today, and I felt a little uneasy. I wanted to come over and ask the queen mother for advice. Chu Qinghuang said in a calm voice, if I disturb the queen mother's rest, please forgive me. Royal secrets? The queen mother's expression changed suddenly, and the sudden uneasiness in her heart made her heart beat faster. The thump dong dong sound made people think that her heart was about to jump out. She tried her best to suppress the roiling emotions and tried to stay calm, but her fingertips felt cold. Everyone, get out! Chu Qinghuang's eyes were indifferent. The secrets of the royal family are not just for anyone to hear. Those who don't want to die are best to stay as far away as possible. The people in the palace were shocked and did not dare to breathe. The queen mother took a deep breath, and her tone was so stiff that it didn't sound like hers. Everyone, get out. Yes. The palace people retreated in panic as if they had received an amnesty. Chu Qinghuang walked to the side and sat down on a chair, very close to the queen mother, where the queen usually sat when the concubines came to pay their respects. I led the imperial guards to search the Ling family today. I unexpectedly learned about an old incident. I had doubts in my mind, so I came here to ask the queen mother. Chu Qinghuang's tone was calm, and no emotion could be heard. The queen mother may be able to help. I'll answer the question. The queen mother became more and more shocked. The Ling family was searched? She actually led people to search the Ling family. She looked at Chu Qinghuang in disbelief. This madman. He actually didn't even let his own mother and concubine go? The queen mother does not need to be so shocked. Chu Qinghuang sat upright on the chair, with an upright posture and a calm demeanor. I have a reason for checking the Ling family. There is no injustice or enmity. If they don't mess with me, I won't attack them so quickly. You are a lunatic, the queen mother sternly said. Chu Qinghuang, what is your heart made of? I'm talking about you with a heart of stone. You don't even let go of your own mother and concubine. What kind of heart do you have? You are so crazy and unreasonable. Chu Qinghuang looked at her silently. The queen mother's breath was uneven, her face was green and white, and she hated this person to the extreme in her heart. Damn madman. She thought that she had obtained the clue to Chu Qinghuang, and as long as she had the fatal clue that Chu Tianzheng was not the biological blood of concubine Duan, it would be enough to make Chu Qinghuang surrender. In order to keep her title of princess, Chu Qinghuang would definitely be wary of doing things. Unexpectedly, she even copied the Ling family directly. If she is not crazy, who is? The Queen Mother looks quite disappointed. Chu Qinghuang frowned. Doesn't it suit you that the Ling family was raided? Why doesn't the Queen Mother look happy at all? She's so happy. The Queen Mother was furious. As much as she hated Chu Qinghuang, she was in a panic. This panic was entirely caused by the situation that was out of control. She finally realized that Chu Qinghuang was a complete devil. She was as ruthless as an evil god, impulsive, hard-hearted, and didn't care about anyone at all. If she doesn't even care about her own mother, who will she care about? The Ling family was imprisoned, but Ling An survived and voluntarily confessed a shocking secret. Chu Qinghuang looked directly into the Queen Mother's eyes. He said there was something wrong with my father's bloodline and that he was not the Queen Mother's biological son. What? Nonsense, the Queen Mother stood up in shock and denied it uncontrollably. Confusing the blood of the royal family is a heinous crime. No one has the courage. The Emperor is the son of the AI family, his biological son. Whoever dares to spread rumors should be punished. Cut into pieces with thousands of swords and divided into pieces by 5 horses. Chu Qinghuang nodded slowly. I think so too, so Ling Ancan is lying. The Queen Mother's heart was beating violently. She looked at Chu Qinghuang coldly, and there was still some uneasiness in her eyes that she didn't know about. Compared with Chu Qinghuang's calmness at this time, the Queen Mother's loss of control further highlighted her failure. Since my father is of royal blood, I am relieved, Chu Qinghuang said slowly. I originally thought that my father's blood was impure, and someone might use this as an excuse to create chaos or something. Since Ling Ancan made up a rumor, I just pretended that I had never heard of it. Paused. As for what the Queen Mother said last time, about Chu Tianzhen's background, I want to know the truth. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 170. The Queen Mother slowly sat down on the phoenix couch. Her body was stiff and her expression was dull. Her chaotic thoughts made her whole body confused and unable to calm down. She was almost overwhelmed by overwhelming fear and uneasiness. The Emperor was not her son. How could Ling Ancan know about this? She did what she did back then without anyone noticing, and all the insiders have been silenced. Even Feng Xiang and his wife don't know about it now. She arranged for a reliable confidant to bribe the midwife of the Feng family in advance. I had my bag removed the night I gave birth. The deceased Mrs. Feng always thought she was giving birth to a daughter. Although her daughter and the Emperor were born 2 days apart, the 2-day difference could be ignored due to deliberate deception. Afterwards, she had everyone involved killed, leaving no one alive. This matter should have been kept top secret. The Emperor became her son, and after he ascended the throne, she naturally became the Queen Mother. It was easy for the mother of a country to get the daughter of a noble family into the palace as a concubine, so her daughter naturally became a noble concubine. The current queen is determined to be the queen, and the Queen Mother will definitely make her daughter the queen. But it doesn't matter, even if she is only a noble concubine, she is only one level lower than the queen. The third Prince Tianyan she gave birth to will still have a chance to compete for the heir apparent. The Queen Mother closed her eyes and thought. Her plan was obviously going well. She was a high-ranking Queen Mother and the Emperor's mother. Who would dare to have any objection to her favoring her own grandson? 5 fingers stretched out may be longer or shorter, and biological children still have favorites. Why can't she, the Queen Mother of a country, have favorites? But why did the plan go wrong? The Queen Mother gritted her teeth and thought that both the imperial concubine and her son had fallen into the evil hands of Chu Qinghuang. If it hadn't been for her, nothing would have happened to Yuling, and the imperial concubine would not have been demoted to Zheyi. It's all because of Chu Qinghuang's scourge. Chu Qinghuang sat on the chair very patiently, Listening to the anger in the Queen Mother's heart, people will inevitably lose their minds when they are extremely angry, just like concubine Duan. Even if she hides it well on her face, long-lost memories will be brought back to her mind under the stimulation of words, and she will involuntarily start to think about those long-lost losses and all the things that happened in the past. Chu Qing Huang put one hand on her forehead and listened nonchalantly to all the thoughts in the Queen Mother's mind, until the Queen Mother finally collected her thoughts, calmed down completely, and raised her head to look at her. Xiao Qi, after the destruction of the Ling family, I'm afraid that you, the eldest princess, will be the end of it, the Queen Mother said in a cold tone. Your temper is always so impulsive and irritable, you can't stand a little stimulation, and you never consider the consequences of doing things, you just know blindly venting. Being born in a royal family, patience is a must, and you will definitely regret it in the future. Chu Qing Huang said calmly, if others don't provoke me, I won't deal with anyone. Won't I come to provoke you? The Queen Mother sneered, a descendant of the royal family or a powerful family, who is not out for profit. For your own interests, you will inevitably harm the interests of others. Who can guarantee that you will never provoke others? When you go to provoke others, have you ever thought that you would also suffer backlash in the future? Chu Qinghuang's tone was indifferent. If a Japanese palace suddenly dies suddenly, it is because his skills are inferior to others. The Queen Mother choked hard and was speechless for a moment. I feel like my internal organs are so angry that they hurt. Sudden death? She was really cruel, so cruel that she even cursed herself. The Queen Mother's eyebrows twitched fiercely, and she raised her hand in disgust. The AI family is not feeling well. I don't want to say anything now. You can go. Chu Qing Huang stood up and said in an indifferent tone as usual, the Queen Mother, take a good rest and don't hurt your body. After saying that, he turned around and walked out. This trip was not in vain. She already knew everything she wanted to know, and she probably got what she wanted. There's really no need to stay any longer. Fukang, after walking out of Renchao Palace, Chu Qing Huang said casually, did you get it? Yes, Fukang followed closely in his master's footsteps. I took a few scriptures, and even if they find something missing, they won't be suspicious for the time being. After all, the scriptures were not confidential, and no one would suspect that they just wanted the Queen Mother's handwriting. There was no one around, so Chu Qinghuang's voice became more leisurely, you might as well guess what I want her handwriting for. Fukang lowered his eyebrows and thought for a moment, then said respectfully, this subordinate is stupid. Are you really stupid? Fukang's voice was lowered, if the guess is correct, can Master give some rewards to his subordinates? Award. Chu Qinghuang turned her head and looked at him with some surprise, you are a lot more courageous. You actually dare to ask for rewards. Because the Master is much gentler than before, and he has become more and more gentle recently. Fukang looked down at his hands. He felt that he was becoming more and more greedy. If he had never met the sunshine, he would not have felt anything wrong if he stayed in the darkness all his life. But, when he met tenderness, he wanted more. Many. It is indeed too greedy. Realizing this, Fukang's expression tightened slightly, my subordinates have exceeded their rules and should be severely punished. $window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix.